Please rise for silent invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll.
Councilman Ford?
Here.
Councilman Tremont?
Here.
Councilman Bastian?
Here.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Here.
Mayor Burnett?
Here. This is the first of 2 days of budget workshops. Today we're going to be working on the capital improvement program, fiscal years 2019 to 2024. There was a lot of nice reading, and a lot of nice thick reading. And then when I got to the slides last night, I'm like, wow, why did I bother even with this? It's like 80 slides, it didn't seem that concise. I'm like, oh, this detail. So I know that you're going to be as concise as possible to get us through it all, because this is quite a bit. You're on.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tracy Ream, Finance Director. Before we start this evening, I just want to let you all be aware what a wonderful staff I have that has provided all this documentation that you've reviewed. It's a real blessing to work with them, and I'm pleased to bring it forward to you. So we're going to be, here's my mouse. Here it is.
Just click it, Tracy.
Just click it?
Yep.
Okay.
Arrow over and you're
Oh,
good
there
to
we go. Okay. These are council's goals as set in the most recent strategic workshop. Of course, public safety and infrastructure being the top two, and that's where we have put our focus this evening, followed by quality of life, economic development, fiscal sustainability, and organizational excellence. So our goals this evening are to go over the process where we are, and at the end of the day, we want to have an understanding of council priorities and answer any question that you may have. So here's how this whole thing starts. We're down past here. The June 26th was the draft 2 of the CIP that you received. We're having our workshop to talk about the items this evening. And on the 7th of August, we'll be bringing you back a resolution to adopt the final draft, the final CPI in concept. And then, of course, the funding will be included on the 5th and the 19th of September when you actually are dealing with approving the budget.
Can you go back to that one slide, Tracy?
Mm-hmm. So we're going to come back to you after we hear from you today. We're going to give you a final CIP. Okay, we do have some items that we need guidance on this evening. And then we will bring you a resolution to adopt on the 7th of August. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And we have basically 3 types. We've got repair and rehabilitation in here, fleet and equipment, as well as growth and concurrency. And as a reminder, this is all funds that you're looking at. Tomorrow we're going to be focused on the general fund, but this is all funds. So here's the CIP in fiscal 19 that basically summarizes this book that you've been given on the 26th. And you'll notice here that it's very similar amount to in the prior year, a similar amount that's requested but unfunded, slightly more we've identified funding on. And just as a note, throughout this presentation, we're presenting things in like a thousands. So you see there at the top where it says 10,983. Well, since that's in thousands, that's actually 10,983. So you're talking about, a $16 million project that we're working on, our program. And so here's how it looks in fiscal 19 and in the out years. Of course, fiscal 19 is what we're funding now. We've identified funding for 68% of what we're going to talk about. We've got contingent funding for the additional 13%, and about 19 to 20% is currently unfunded at this time. And so here it is by department, and it's no surprise that public utilities and public works takes the lion's share with over 63%, because infrastructure, as we all know, is very expensive. That's followed by the lease and replacement fund, which of course funds all of your rolling stock. So that's why that's so large. And also Parks and Rec has a lot of infrastructure and a lot of facilities as well. That's kind of how it breaks out by department. So what we're going to do from this point is we're going to go through by department and talk about the funded projects. You'll see on the list unfunded and contingently funded things as well, but we're really focused on the funding side of the things this evening. So here we are by department. This is basically graphically what you just saw in the pie chart a moment ago. Again, you see the lion's share. Yes.
When you say they're funded in the preliminary budget?
A very good question.
Or there's a source of funding from a grant agency or things like that. How are they funded since we haven't voted for?
You haven't voted yet. This is just as things have been currently identified. So their funding has been identified at this.
Okay.
Is probably a more clear way to say it. Thank
Okay,
you.
funding has been identified for them in
one of the many
preliminary budget.
Right, in one of the many funds that we've been working
Lease
on.
and replacement, give them some
Right,
examples.
lease and replacement. The challenge that we're going to have is the 317 fund, and you'll see that later because we have identified a few projects that we believe really need to move forward, but the source of funding for 317 is the general fund. We typically do that transfer from the general fund into the 317. Well, we all know the hit the general fund took on the past few years with the hurricanes. So that is indeed an area where we're looking for council guidance. So we'll delve into that in a little bit when we get a little closer to those items.
So let's
Yes.
just take a break there so everybody's clear. When she says funded, lease and replacement's one of them, restricted gas tax,
Mhm.
things of that nature. So that's revenue that's coming in that can be used for specific items that we pay into or we get money for specific needs. Some funds we can manipulate, some funds we can't. So as we get down into the nitty-gritty, you can ask the questions on the specific projects if there are questions.
Yeah, and I think following up on that, public utilities, of course, the source for their
Absolutely.
capital projects
And
is, of
drainage.
course, their operating
Right.
fund. So it transfers in from their operating fund into their capital projects. So that's the largest piece of this pie is public utilities. Okay. So as I've already said, summaries are rounded to the nearest thousands, and we're only talking about the funded projects, or the projects where funding has been identified, I think is a better way to put it. The first one of these you're very familiar with, and that's the ERP project that we're currently focusing our efforts on. It shows up under the city manager's purview, and it's you see here the funding for the next 3 years. It's being funded out of the lease and replacement fund. Okay, so that's the identified funding source. And the entire project is currently funded at $2.18 million. Okay. You like the pictures?
Have you allowed Alan to participate in putting?
No, actually, that was
You would
finance
think.
staff.
This is the same picture from last year, and I said, you have to keep it, and I saw it back.
Yes. Okay, so there you go. So that's coming along very nicely, as we're all aware. And so this is just a greater description of it. That 846 again is really for the entire life of the project is going to be more like 2.18 million. It's been funded over several years at this point. Community development has the top 6 projects that are funded. And this is primarily funded. Here they are on the map for you. They're primarily being funded out of gas tax funds.
Mm-hmm.
This is hopefully to alleviate some of the concerns that we have with traffic in the area.
Tracy, I'd like to take a quick time out. Council, I just want you to know that we have 2 interns down here, Alyssa and Maya, and I'm going to be, they're both from the Academy of Finance, so I'm going to be walking back and forth, kind of explaining our budget process tonight and tomorrow with them, so they can get a little bit out of their internship above and beyond working for us every day. So I appreciate your letting me jump up and down and kind of explain some of the things to them.
All right, come on up here.
One of my
Both of you guys, come on up here, please.
Sorry, ladies. I knew that was going to happen. I apologize.
Tracy, just relax. These ladies going to take over. Obviously.
Well, you have obviously brought an abundance of talent with you. So first of all, tell us who you are, where you go to school, and what year you're going to be entering into.
I'm Alyssa Kristen. I go to Spruce Creek High School, and I'm going to be a senior.
I'm Maya Glenn. I also go to Spruce Creek High School, and I'm going to be a senior.
All right, congratulations on
I know
making
that
it
one.
to your senior year. You've survived so far.
One of my
And
formers.
We're counting on both of you to save this world for us when you graduate.
We count on it.
All right.
All right.
I like it.
Perfect.
Good
Thanks,
stuff.
ladies. Good to
Thanks.
see you guys. Welcome. Thanks, Tracy.
So the first of these is constructing a westbound turn lane on Dunlawton into the city center complex here. And so the gas tax and the TPO are funding this project in 19 and 20. Also funded by the gas tax and the TPO is a project to construct a right turn lane eastbound on Dunlawton at the intersection with Clyde Morris. Want me to go back to the map, if you want me to go back?
Nope, just keep going through 'em.
Good, okay.
Maybe when you're done, go back to the map.
Okay. And this is a sidewalk gap filling project. There's several areas identified here, funded in 19 and 20. You can see the lion's share of it hitting in fiscal 20. And here's a picture of where these sidewalk gaps are going to be filled in with this project. I'll let you look at that for a minute.
That priority order that you were showing us is top 6.
Yes, it's the top 6 where funding has been identified that we're going to be talking about. This is project number 3, which is the sidewalk gap project.
Okay. When you get done, Tracy, I want to go back and identify that in the books because I don't think they're in the same order.
Depends on which part of the book.
It's true.
Yeah, I can go back here if
Some
you're.
of them are,
That's
one
okay.
section of the book's by department,
Right, right.
some of it is by
By
funding
fund,
source, some of
yes.
it is by,
And as we go
That's
through
okay,
this
go ahead.
presentation, I'll just back up one slide. Down here on the bottom, you'll see the page number referenced. And so that page 74 is the page in which you'll find
Gotcha.
more detail in this book that you have.
Thank you.
That's a helpful cross-reference. So here's where we're going to, again, be filling in those gaps. We're following on with constructing sidewalks on Madeline from Williamson to Clyde Morris and from Williamson on the south side of Madeline as well as the north side of Madeline. So I thought I had a picture of that. I apologize. And
That's
we're
a good sidewalk to put in, because that is a scary ride from Williamson on Clyde Morris.
it is.
Or Williamson on Madeline to Clyde.
It is. This project number 5 under community development is looking at options to modify the intersection at the Taylor-Clyde Morris intersection to improve some movement, specifically eastbound Taylor. So again, we've got a lot of TPO funding in out years. In 19, we're doing a lot of the design work. And this is a feasibility study to identify improvements to minimize the delays to traffic. So this is a study, again, largely funded by the TPO grant. So that'll be welcome news for our citizens.
Taylor and Williamson.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is community development. Now we're going to be talking about fire rescue.
Can I go
Yes,
back,
of course.
please, to slide 13? I have a comment that I'd like council to be aware of. One of the things that we'll be discussing with the 317 is item priority number 17, the ADA transition plan, $200,000. And I think I've indicated to council before that the ADA transition plan is integral to any LAP agreement that we have to do, having to do with transportation, which all 6 of your top projects there deal with LAP. So that ADA transition plan needs to be complete in order to get basically FDOT funding. So it has to be done. I have to figure out a way to pay for that ADA transition plan if any of those 6 things are going to get TPO funding or other grant funding. So just to let you know as we get down toward the end.
Also on that list, 13, I just want to kind of take note, you're on page, slide 13 there. the number of things that are unfunded. You've got some of those things coming from gas money, some of those things coming from TPO grants, and some of those also take note of this is not all happening in fiscal year 19 because the money isn't there. We've got to wait to collect it and see it, whether it be grant or the gas tax and the like. So when we talk to people that yes, we have a plan to improve traffic, but it's definitely not going to happen overnight. And when we say overnight, we're talking over the next 3 to 5 years because the money's not there to make it happen right away. Thus, the reason why these things are staggered out. So we have to absolutely react when people complain about. They're absolutely right, but we also have to be realistic when we talk to them about how fast things are going to happen. And if you just go ahead and flip to slide 14. I noticed, Jake, that this was the same slide you used last year with a couple of additions, so well done. Keep up the good work. Now all we got to do is start crossing some of these projects off.
Well,
We keep adding.
the U-turn's gone, right? The U-turn in front of Lowe's is gone.
There's
Well
one.
done.
We knocked one out of the ballpark.
There you go.
Or a single, whatever you want to call it.
Keep
All
working
right.
it. Okay.
Before we leave this, where we're talking about the ADA transition plan, we're going to revisit this again tomorrow because it is not currently funded, as the manager has said. And if council wishes to move forward with these other funding, it is $200,000, and we don't have an identified funding source for it currently.
We got
So-
3.8 million of things unfunded just in 2019. This
Yes, we do.
being one of them.
It's a difficult position to be in. You know, we've rebuilt our reserves to the point that we could weather, God forbid, another storm if one were to come. You know, I knocked on wood.
There's wood in there
It's
somewhere.
wood,
Oh, I
it's wood
hope
in
so.
here somewhere. Yeah, I mean, so we're in a really good position that way. But the difficult part that council is facing is whether to dip into the reserves that we have, knowing that there's not a lot of excess. You know, we don't have it to cover our encumbrances. When I say we have it, we have it. You're supposed to have like 10.6, you got I think 10.9, you're right in there, so you're plus minus nothing for the amount of reserves. So you can take part of that and you can say, I want to fund this TPO, this ADA transition plan in order to get that funding for the TPO. That's your choice. Your other alternative is to go ahead and have it funded with the millage. So, you know, tomorrow I've already sent out, I think, or it should be coming out shortly, the PDF of where we are. You've already gotten your book for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of decisions that you're going to need to be making, but I don't want that one to be lost because it has downstream effects.
And also to note that I'm sure we'll be revisiting all of this in the next 6 months after this fiscal year is complete and we know where we stand as it ends.
True.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and hopefully we've gotten much of the Matthew money back. We haven't submitted the Irma money yet. So, you know, we're better than we were, but we're not back to where we should be. If that makes sense. Okay, so scoot down. We were talking about fire rescue was next on the list. So the top 3 items of these are funded. They're all funded with the the top is funded with the lease and replacement fund. So these are replacing radios that we currently have. These will become P25 compliant. Sure you. And also from the lease and replacement is a replacement of the traffic management system implemented back in the late 90s, which cover a lot of the directional signals within the city. So,
I did not see on that list the
back up here.
the truck on slide 22, the $1 million fire truck.
It's coming.
Oh, okay.
It will come when we talk about
Vehicle,
vehicles.
right?
Yes, although it's changed some. So,
Changed. Yeah, I'll wait till you get
Yeah, we'll get there. It'll be a
Okay.
discussion.
okay. So here's the radios, and then the emergency traffic control system, and then finally the training facility and tower. So we're looking to spend fire impact fees in 19 on the design of it, and look to next year This is likely going to come down before fiscal '20. It's going to probably be reduced in scope and limited to Port Orange only. We were initially looking to partner with our neighboring city. So I believe in the next version of this CIP that you will be receiving, we'll be having more like a total of about $750 that we're going to be looking for. The majority of it, we're going to do our best to fund out of the fire impact fee.
The other, I did have a question in my notes to ask about the emergency traffic control device. Could,
So would that be this?
you might, is the chief here?
Yep.
Tell me what we got and tell me why we need this.
Ken Fuston, Fire Chief. Currently, we use an Opticom system that was installed back in the 90s, and it's simply out of date. So this new system will be a GPS-enabled, computer-driven traffic control management system that will change the lights as we approach them through a GPS system. Completely
Okay.
separate platform.
It
The
does-
system that we have is just, we're borrowing old, spare, antiquated parts to keep it in service.
Okay. So this is not just a replacement, but an upgrade as well.
Yes, it's a
Okay.
complete revamp of the system, completely different platform.
Yeah. Doesn't come cheap, but
And it also will increase our response times accordingly. And it's also available to...
increase our response time?
Decrease, I'm sorry.
Decrease.
It will decrease our response times. And is also available for all the other city departments who operate an emergency function. We are not, however, going to allow Jake to put one on his porch.
Well, I'm surprised he brought this forward to us then.
It's a good system. Chief Wolfing has done a lot of research on this.
I got 8 jokes, but last time I used one, it didn't work out so well for me, so I'm gonna.
Chief, is it covering, because I know with the Opticom, we didn't have every intersection covered because it was just simply too expensive.
Yeah.
Is this going to cover the current ones that we have the Opticoms on, or is this every traffic light?
In FY19, we are proposing to install them on the major intersections,
Okay,
primarily Dunlawton.
yeah.
And then the next phase will be the secondary and tertiary intersections. It will not cover every street light in the city.
Okay.
We're going to
But
look to
Nova,
the primary,
Clyde,
secondaries, and
Dunlawton,
tertiary.
all the
correct.
big ones.
That's
Picking up
correct.
momentum where you get the most momentum.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it won't interfere with when they're doing the adaptive traffic thing for the traffic signals. It won't interfere or cause any problems with that, will it?
It will cause problems for the current system. It will not cause problems as I understand research-wise with the new ones.
Okay.
Because
They'll
they
work
sense
together.
what's going on and adapt accordingly anyhow. So
Okay.
once they go through, it'll sense what's going on and
Put it
adapt
back.
again.
Okay, I got
Yeah.
you.
Cycle
Good
back.
deal.
But in the lights that are screwed up now, it'll take a little while to zip it back after they get through it. But,
Okay.
But less so than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, when it took, that one light on Dunlawton took 3 or 4 minutes to turn green again after they went through it, so.
Yeah.
And hopefully with decreased response times, it will have a secondary impact on our ISO score, which is another big part of some of our requests, which we'll talk about eventually.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks for letting us pick on you right now.
Thanks, Chief.
So we've discussed the training tower. And so that moves us on to information technology. And there the top 5 projects have been, funding has been identified for them. So the top priority to bring forward to you is the replacement and updating the telecommunications infrastructure fiber optic network on the city facilities. This is all coming out of the lease and replacement fund because you're updating items that you already have and have already been paid into.
Okay.
So this is similarly here is replacing capital technology hardware, servers, and the like for about $25,000, an ongoing program. We next have a public safety refreshment of the public safety laptops and the patrol cars and the fire engines to keep them up to date as well, replacing about 1/3 of them a year. And here's the fiber optic network tracer wire. I think this was, I started last year, or identified as a need last year to get our 14 facilities properly linked. and the current signage at the intersection of Dunlawton and City Center Boulevard, as well as within the City Hall. So this is really two locations. It's both the sign out front as well as some of the signage here in the city to, improve the promotion of city services and integrate with social media to bring that up to
Like
date.
putting the word City Hall on City Hall?
I'm not 100% sure that's included in this. No.
I got the jab, but these are,
Those two couldn't afford that.
these are, what we see in the lobby is people walk in the front door and they stand there and they move the leaves of our beautiful plants out of the way to try to figure out where DeSantis's office is, and 9 times out of 10 if I'm out there I say, can I help you? Yeah, I'm just trying to, where do I pay my water bill? So these will be digital signs that will very clearly point out to where you got to pay your water bill. And part of it will be, I've talked to Councilman Stiltner before and a little bit to Councilman Bastian about better advertising what's going on in the city. Yeah. This is an opportunity to get those digital signs to not only give you information but tell you what's going on in the city so you don't miss the seafood festival or whatever the heck you want to visit. You can equate it to going to the hotel or going to a conference and seeing those TV signs that tell you, Florida League of Cities this way, and it will be advantageous in that we can change the information as we have information that becomes important, in addition to guiding people where they want to go with some signage that's a little more than 1970s technology. So that's what we're doing there. And then I'm trying to upgrade the sign at the end of the road that's working on a DOS Commodore 64 128. It's Peter Ferreira knows how to use it, and James.
I don't know how. He ain't that old.
Yeah, I don't know.
Green screen.
His dad's gave him a Commodore. I don't know. So yeah, it's worse than green screen. But,
So moving on to Parks and Rec, there's one project here that is funded, and that is the remodel and expansion of the gym currently located. And this is an item for council guidance. Council has previously indicated that you wanted us to apply for ECHO grants, and this is an opportunity. However, ECHO does require that the city fund the portion of our. So it's an expansion, it would be a facility improvement. It would be eligible for ECHO funding, but it still is a heavy lift for the city. So really at this point, we have it listed as funded as identified, but again, it's very much like the ADA transition plan in that there's not equity currently available to fund this. There's not equity in the 317 fund that can take care of this. There's not equity in the general fund to transfer over to this outside of council instructing us to do so. So we're really interested in knowing, you're going to see this again on the general fund discussion that we're going to have tomorrow, because it's listed there as an item for you to consider if you want to move forward in this direction, and how you would want us to appropriate the funding for it. So.
And something to think about. And I guess we can talk about it tomorrow and go back and amend the CIP based on what you talk about tomorrow, or we can talk about it today. But a couple things that council needs to keep in mind is the appropriated equity is only going to go so far. You have a policy on how you can use it. I think you're all familiar with that. Mm-hmm. But there are things that are currently not in the budget, but are downstream. There's an effort to refresh District 1. I think everybody knows, based on driving down the road, what properties are for sale in District 1 and what the cost is for some of those. If the city wants to entertain purchasing those properties, we better save some money for that. And there are a bunch of other items that we could use for appropriated equity that we have to consider. So we can't spend it 4 different ways. We can spend it maybe 1 or 2 ways. So keep those things in consideration. when we move on with this budget discussion at the general fund.
Do you want to talk about unfunded items in Parks and Rec as well? Can I go back to the?
Sure, yeah, bring it
So
up.
there's,
Almost all of it.
yes, there are, and some of them, are some serious needs or some needs that council has previously expressed interest in, particularly some of the HVAC things at the Lakeside Center. The reason that we're moving the rec center up is because that was our understanding that you wanted us to pursue an ECHO grant. So I just want to, if that's what you want us to do, then we need to get the city's side of funding in place or we won't have it approved.
I think that the situation with the ECHO grant, since that program itself may have a short shelf life, I think that we ought to jump on that opportunity while it exists.
Absolutely.
Because there's no certainty that it's going to get extended by the voters or not. And quite frankly, the voters in this city have paid an awful lot of money into that program. I'd like to see us get our share of benefit out of it, other than just, I mean, certainly other cities have done things and their county projects that we all benefit from, but there aren't that many that we've done directly with this city. And unless anybody disagrees, I think we got to strike while the iron's hot and get it while the money's there. I know that creates an issue because we're accelerating quite a bit of equity spending there. But
What do you need from us for the grant writing proposal to begin being worked out?
On the 17th, in addition to setting the maximum millage rate, there is on the agenda a resolution of council saying that you do want us to apply for this. We've done, we've spent very little money at this point. We've spent about $6,000 in getting a very preliminary estimate of what it might take. And so it's a big project. It's $910,000. If council says on the 17th, yes, you want to move forward, then we would start to spend city money on a design, a more full-fledged design. We would apply for an ECHO grant based upon that resolution and the associated funding being identified. They won't entertain it unless we have the funding. So that would then happen in about the November timeframe. We would send that off. ECHO would make its decision in the spring. So the actual cash outlay would not happen in fiscal 19, but nevertheless it would be earmarked, and it would be earmarked. It would be a restricted fund because it would be by council authority. So you would have put that aside.
What are we asking for them?
I'm sorry.
In amount.
We're asking of this, it would be split 510 for the city and 400 for ECHO.
Go to slide 33.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong slide. Just that
Right there.
detail is there.
So slide 33, basically we have to obligate that $510,000 in order for ECHO to consider our project and go, they got skin in the game, they care, they're willing to pay the price for this, and then we could get the $400,000 match. In order to even apply, we need to do the preliminary design, which we've scrounged around some money to get a prelim design, so Amanda Lasecki can set the wheels in motion. So when we get the $510,000 obligated by council, that we can proceed with the application. As soon as the budget gets approved, we've got proof that we've got it in the budget, and Volusia ECHO will consider our project.
the amount of time it takes to design, engineer, pitch, get the grant approved, going through the committee, getting the money, and allotting it, we're probably not even spending this money, all of it, until 21 maybe even, because the amount of time it takes.
I don't think this current council will give us that kind of time.
I don't want it.
Nor would I. I'd like to start it in mid to late 20, and that's, you know, that's
I want it done by
accounting
21.
for the purchasing. So D.R. Horton can build 75 houses in about a week, and you'd think we could get a gym refurbished in a year and a half.
Except I won't say
that.
I won't say how they do it, but
sure.
Jake, is there a way? I know you're still early in that particular process, and design will be key. But
Sure.
Is there a way to kind of get a ballpark idea of what we think realistic expectations will be in terms of a remodel or redesign of that facility? And I mean, are we talking expansion of usable square footage?
Yes.
Or, okay. Maybe,
Yes.
maybe some
So the
ballpark
prelim
ideas.
design will show you what it looks like.
Okay.
But if you recall, I wasn't at that workshop or that joint meeting, but I think you all made it clear from listening to it that what you want and what we're going to try to stuff into that building. And so
That's what and that's exactly what I'm,
So
what
we
I'm
have
curious
a-
about is real. I mean, what we want and what realistically can occur at that footprint or the expansion of the footprint.
Susan will be able to explain that to you once
Okay.
the prelim design, but I think the instruction was we wanted cultural education, keep the recreation, and make room for cultural, i.e. art house, to be able to come in. So that's additional square footage. That's not the same footprint.
Okay.
We're not going to try to shove adult annex, pickleball, art house, and then everything, and quilting all in the current PAL's going to be in there now. So a lot of people are moving in. So it'll be expanded square footage. So yeah, we'll provide you the prelim design, and then just like we do anything else, like the annex, we'll provide design considerations for you.
One other one. Earlier this year, we had a couple of young kids come visit us and ask us about lighting the skate park.
Correct.
Do we want to include that in the CIP, even if it's unfunded? Maybe it might not get done for quite a while, but at least it's on our radar.
I don't think the Parks and Rec Committee has really
Reviewed it.
reviewed it to the point where they want it. We're talking FP&L about possible grants, or there's a lot of ways to skin that cat.
Gotcha.
I think you all, if you haven't, you're gonna get a 650, was it? Wow, Cindy's not here. We just got a big petition to cover our parks so our kids don't get burned. I don't think the first one to the well with a good idea ought to be funded, so let's,
No, I'm not talking about funding. I'm just talking about keeping it on our radar.
it's on my radar.
Okay.
So,
That's what I need to hear.
yeah.
And there is some concerns about kids being out late.
When it gets,
Well,
when it
they
gets
should-
dark
somebody-
at 6 o'clock at night,
No,
we can
but-
turn the lights off at 9 p.m.
Yeah, but 6 o'clock they should be home having dinner, and then they should be doing something, I guess, that people are immune to anymore, studying.
Are you ladies listening? I just want
Bob?
you to know.
I'm not big about lots of kids out at night.
Well, in the winter months at 7:30 p.m. And it's dark there, they'll be out there in the dark, and that's not late.
You're going to be out there whether you want to be
So
out there.
that's my problem.
I don't want to-
So one of the things that you all can talk up here about parenting all you want. The rec, as we've discussed it, Susan and I have discussed it, is you're going to have to go through. We're calling it the rec now, okay? So it's kind of like the DLH City Center Annex. You're going to have to go through the rec to get to the skate park, if we get our way. So you're going to have to go through the gauntlet to get to anywhere. So that'll prevent a lot of possible stupidity and fence jumping and whatnot. So we'll take a look at that lighting, and that may be part of the prelim design. So I'd like to just hold off on putting that on any CIP for now.
Okay.
So also included is a canopy for the maintenance facility at Cypress Head. And so the irrigation repair and replacement is in out years currently. There's a little bit more detail on it. There's a concrete pad and an aluminum roof, not a whole lot. The YMCA, we're looking to repair some of the exterior and resurface the parking lot. Now, since council's direction has been to get the 106 fund to be the YMCA, that's what it is currently. So these projects will be funded out of the revenue that's being generated by the 106 fund. Okay. That's the painting and the resurfacing. Now we're on to utilities. This is where the heavy lift comes, because there's, as you see, 18 funded projects here to go through. It's the unfunded projects or the out years. So we're going to take a deep dive here in the public utilities and talk about the sewer system expansion. This has all been funded with the 405 fund, I believe it's 405 fund that's funding these. So this is the capital projects fund associated with water sewer. So it's initially funded from user fees. Some of it might be also funded from impact fees if appropriate. So this one is an impact fee because you're expanding the system. So as you know, we've done the weight trim study. So here you've got your implementation. Your heavy lifts are coming in out years. Okay, so we're going to be doing design in 19 and looking for construction in 20 and 21.
Hey, wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to make note of the fact that we paid for a study that we're actually using this. That's we like that.
Yeah, we do like that.
It's helpful.
We slam on it. We've certainly, Bob, you and I particularly over the years has slammed on us for paying for studies we don't use. So when I see one that we're doing, I think we got to say something good.
That's good. We'll also be pursuing grant funding as appropriate for this. We have to design it and then pursue the grants. We have to know what we're doing first and then look for the people that are willing to pay for it. So here's some rehabilitation of our existing. This is going to be reducing infiltration and inflow is the idea here. And it depends upon the age and capacity. So this is, again, pretty much an ongoing, more of a program than a specific project because it's funded every year to reduce I&I. Here is a picture, I believe, that you've seen in the past.
One of our favorite pictures.
Yes, where you can see the infiltration and inflow impacting our sewer system. Here's another graph of Lynn's system, bottom line. That's Lynn's system. You can see where my finance falls off and Lynn's comes on. So here's basically their property line and the easement showing the impact into the sewer main. So where we can do work and where we cannot do work. Happy to hear that the meter replacement program that has been ongoing for multiple years now is coming to a close. We've
Final
got
thousand.
less than 1,000 meters that we're working on replacing. We're also replacing some of the large commercial meters as well. So when we get this done, then we can
Start over.
move forward into other areas.
Exactly.
Here's a renewal and replacement of plant components at your water reclamation facility. Again, it's an ongoing program more than a specific project to maintain the level of service that we have. We also need some repairs to the electrical systems at our water reclamation facilities. We've had a variety of electrical problems there, so we're looking to do a pretty substantial upgrade. We're also looking to replace generators. We've had quite a few discussions about generators lately. There's 17 emergency standby generators that maintain the water sewer service. It's obviously very important to keep that functioning at all times. So we're looking to replace them in 19 and out years.
I noticed in the CIP you gave us the full inventory of our generators for everything. It was
All
quite
generators.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quite extensive. Now I see why you want so much money for maintenance. It's a lot of generators.
So, and for these, during our, I noticed it during our 2 hurricanes that we've had, that we've had to send generators, we've had to send pumps, but by and large, this city does a lot better than some others in operating in extremis like that. So it's important that this keeps on zipping through with the standby generators for well and water service or sewer service.
Yeah. There's a more extensive description there on pages 126 and 127. Exactly where you're going to be doing it, what size of the generators are going to be, and why it's necessary. Here we have the raw water main replacement. So this is secondary pipeline from the well field to the water treatment plant. Currently there's only one, and so we're looking to implement a second one. We've got design in 19, construction in 20.
Redundancy is good.
This is replacing the aging distribution. So when we have failure of our infrastructure, so here's some areas that have been noted that are aging and need to be paid attention to. You can see most of those are in the, many of them are in the older section of the city. We also want to replace lift stations. When you talk about the number of generators, I was always amazed by the number of lift stations that we have in our system. So we replace a few every year. I think it's about 15 or so a year that we tend to rehab. We're also going to be improving the telemetry and instrumentation systems to operate the water and wastewater and reclaimed water systems. So again, this is much more of a program than a specific project. But because of the size, it's appropriate that we're discussing it here on the CIP. And this is to allow the city to participate in, for city cost participation in development projects. So it would include water, sewer, upsizing of lines, lift stations, and other activities. So again, it's both the water impact fee and the sewer impact fee is an expansion of your system. So that's why it qualifies for the impact fee usage. And here's extensions as well. Again, an expansion of your system, so you're using the water impact fee funds. This would be to extend it to parcels that don't currently have it, so it's an extension.
Yeah, and it's important that we get back to get it using lucidity to sort out the price cost so that the stormwater impact fees can be legitimately assessed and assigned for the expenses we generate.
Right. We have them designated water and sewer as well as residential and commercial. So we track it into 4 little buckets to make sure that we're using the appropriate impact
Money
fee
in
for the appropriate project. It just says here water impact fee fund. It doesn't tell you which section of that fund.
And I just want to be clear that Lucity is used by Public Works, not by Public Utilities, so this particular stuff would not be, right idea, but Lucity is not used by utilities.
Okay. Would be helpful.
So here we have a repair and replacement of a drinking water well equipment, including the pump, the motor, the well casing, etc. Again, this is more programmatic than a particular project. So again, these are things that we're doing every year. And here is, we have one water storage tank with 1 million gallons. We're looking to design in 19 and then construct in 21 to have another one. So the design is a little what we're talking about in this year.
Where would we put that?
Where would it go?
Sure where we would put it.
3
Let me
million,
see.
the 3 million gallon water tank.
I'm sorry,
Where would we put the 3 million?
at the water plant.
At the plant.
At the plant
At
itself.
the plant itself.
Okay.
Right. And again, this is an expansion of the system, so we would be looking to use the water impact fee fund for this and looking for grants as well. So, but that first we have to design it and then get a year to really get the design complete and look for grants and then look to construct it out in 21.
So our capacity would go to 4 million.
Yes.
You'd have the initial one plus the additional 3 million, is that, okay.
Yes, I think we would be then at 4.5 million. Would we
Okay.
not? Would we not be at 4.5
We
million?
have 1 million at the plant currently.
Mhm.
This would add 3 million to the plant.
Okay.
At the plant site, we still have.
Plus
the
we have
three
the
offsites.
ones off.
Yeah, okay.
But what would happen is, many plants experience an issue. If the plant goes down for any reason,
We have to be able to get water out over a longer period of time. and
Understood.
We'd like to have more storage for that comfort.
We have a sister city that's not as well equipped with water and tanks, and they've called us before and said, hey, how you guys looking in case we need you? So,
Good to be a good neighbor.
we try.
So this is additional reuse supply for irrigation. So we're looking to have, again, something very similar, the design in 19, the construction in 21, after we look for some grant fundings. So it's a similar project, but on the water reuse side of the house. Project 16 is the sewer system rehab, so a force main to cross the river. It would be a second transmission force main under the river that connects to the existing system on US 1. So this is a large project. We're looking to design it in 19 and look for grant funding as well as using sewer impact fee in 20. So we currently only have one, and so this would provide service to basically the barrier island.
By the way, could we potentially, as we're looking at this, take a look at its possibility for stormwater? In other words, when you have the ground open, could we put in additional pipes? Because we're having trouble getting under, getting. One of our problems is there's a wall called Ridgewood Avenue for stormwater, and anywhere we can break through that wall and run a pipe is helpful, but it's very expensive. So when we have it open, you know, we had to ditch it. When we have it done, maybe we can run some piping.
How do we get
One
under
of
the
the
river?
things that we are doing is making sure that any of the public works or utility projects, we're looking at the other side of the house.
Good.
So while we're opening roads to do water main replacement, we're also looking at street condition. We want to make sure we're not paving a street and coming back 2 years later and digging it up. So we are looking very closely at those items to make sure that we're not stepping over ourselves. So we will be looking at stormwater crossing under wherever we go, if at all possible, and any other areas where they might commingle or intermix the projects.
Thank you.
How do we get under the river?
How you get under the river?
Yeah, how are we going to go under the river?
You tunnel.
Okay.
You do a bore under the river.
Okay. Close to the existing pipeline, is that what we're doing? Or
We're actually going to go on the other side of the bridge.
Okay.
This project was resultant from Herbert Street. And when we started doing work on Herbert Street and saw the condition of the pipe, it caused us great concern. So that's what stemmed this project. And we plan to go the other side of the bridge and tie it in on the other side so we could run either side
Very good.
and still be able to provide service.
Next is a utility mapping program to map the customers, all the as-built as they are, and get a printout of the collection and distribution systems. So this is, again, to know where we are and what we need to improve. So it's $50,000 on the year out for data management software. And our final project for public utilities is the water treatment plant repair and replacement. Equipment is, again, very programmatic. The Guernsey water plant is the focus of this, and our operating permits with the Department of Health and St. John's Water Management District. So those permits require us to do routine repair and replacement. So these A through B projects are directly related to those permits.
Before you move on to Public Works, just a quick question. Now that we're down to the final 1,000 meters or so, everything's on radio read now. Will we have any meters that we still manually read?
Go ahead, man. My guess. And explain what's going to happen to the meter readers, please.
When we're done with the 1,000, all city-owned meters will be radio read. But we do still have the trailer park issue. And we are working to finalize some ordinances. Tracy, Margaret, and I have been working on how we transition some of those private meters in the private mobile home parks and how we deal with that and make them a master meter. Because we don't have control over those meters, we don't own those meters, and those are all still manually read. So that's where we are with meter readers meter reading as far as getting all of our infrastructure over to radio read. This is the last of it. And we've been funding, I think, just under $1 million a year in meter replacement. So you'll see this is a significant decrease in funding requests this year for this project. Mr. Johansson wanted me to explain what's going to happen with the meter reader positions. The meter readers themselves, while they won't be physically reading as many meters, they'll roll into more of a maintenance mode. So they'll be doing meter box maintenance, they'll be doing residential meter repairs, the transponders need attention. We have a lot of turn-on, turn-offs, so they'll be doing some of those things. So they'll be doing more of the routine maintenance on the small residential meters.
Replacing the batteries and the things that are in the boxes.
The
and
transponders,
yeah,
they're sealed units, so if a transponder goes bad, then that would be part of their duty. They'll also be doing fire hydrant maintenance and possibly some valve exercising program that we're required under state law to have.
Now we're going to look at Public Works. And you can see here that we've got the top 5 projects where we've identified some funding for them. So here you have your gas tax money, which is used to pave your streets. So this will be about 5 miles of public streets each year. So it's an ongoing sort of project. Again, using the 301 gas tax money. This is going to be repairing and replacing and adding curbing to existing roadways. It's replacement, it's not maintenance, and the project is also seeking some HUD funding through CDBG. So this project in particular is near and dear to quite a few staff members' hearts because there's been some pretty harrowing incidents on that corner. You probably are familiar with it. There's the post office, and then you come up and you make that turn, that pretty sharp turn where there's a guardrail there. So this is really that guardrail replacement program. There's been some incidents there that are really concerning from a safety point of view. So we're putting it in here for gas tax funding. We're going to be sort of concurrently holding some meetings on CDBG, putting it into the CDBG plan. If it gets approved there, we would then bring a resolution to council changing the funding source from the 301 fund into the CDBG fund, 110 fund. But we want to make sure that it gets funded, so that's why it's moved forward here. This is to place some stop, caution, and yield signs at the elementary and high schools to improve safety at those locations. Again, using the capital projects gas tax funding.
Quick comment, since this is near and dear to my neighborhood. The water's edge hitting of kids every year, that's funded this year. So we're going to get on that with hopefully, Ronnie, before the start of school year. So before the start of school year, we're going to get that place where we're always hitting kids. And then the rest of them will happen in next fiscal year, but we'll get all the schools.
Yeah.
In addition to that, just on the topic, Jake, is there a reason we don't have a school driving zone out in front of Spruce Creek High?
No high schools have school driving zones. Is that right, Tom?
No high schools.
Yeah.
They used to, but they don't. Neither one
High
of them
school
do.
kids are supposed to be smart enough not to dart out in front of or leave council meetings. But yeah, I think high schools across the county don't have school zones at the high school level.
Okay. The way the traffic is in front of Spruce Creek, it'll stand still anyway.
Jake, I think that's actually covered in state statute. I'm not so sure there's any high schools in the state of Florida because of the enforcement mechanism to that have that, but it's been a while since I've seen that.
No, I think we looked it up at one of y'all's requests last year, which is why I know that it's county, if not worse, or better.
So here, Public Works is maintaining 18 generators, and this is going to be purchase and installation of standby generators and transfer switches. So again, this comes out of the building maintenance fund, however. We're looking to replace the kitchens at fire stations 71 and 74 that were built in 2001 and 1999. This was previously requested and had been postponed, so we're asking for it again this year. And that takes care of Public Works. Were there any questions on any of those projects? Okay. Right now, here comes the Stormwater Fund.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
The workshop, that was item 8. If you go to slide page 61, it's unfunded currently.
Right.
The picture of that absolutely falling apart on page 87 of the CIP.
Mm-hmm.
Would love to be able to find some dollars to make that happen.
That's the wood shop, right?
Yeah.
Also, I have a question on the kitchen replacement issues. One of the stations, I think, had a water problem recently. Did we have a leak at a fire station a couple weeks or a month ago or something?
Yeah,
I'm just curious, did it damage the kitchen more?
The water main coming in from outside.
Okay.
You got to come up, Chief. Sorry. Bo's got to move.
The water leak you're talking about was at station 71, and it was the main coming in.
Okay.
It was it went underneath the footing and then elbowed up into the building.
Okay.
And it broke directly under the wall.
Ooh.
So we had to repair it. They got it done. I'm not exactly sure how they got it done, but it's fixed.
Okay.
But that water damage was not related to any other interior damage at 71 from age.
Okay, but it didn't further damage the kitchen.
No, no, sir.
Because I mean, I know how bad it was, and it's not getting any better.
No, but the concrete in that fire station in that area has sunk down.
I got you.
So there is some damage, but it's not related to this kitchen.
I got you.
Replacement.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
They use duct tape.
Flex tape.
Good duct tape.
Yeah, flex tape. Flex seal.
All right.
Right.
Back to 67.
Okay. Oops. There we go. So here's the stormwater projects, most of which you're quite familiar with, particularly the top one, the Virginia Monroe project.
Yes.
So we're familiar with this project. We've talked a lot about it. We're got some grants from the state and from FEMA, and so we're continuing on with this. I'm looking for the drainage operating fund as well as the grants and other funding. We have your pipe repair and replacement, an ongoing need in the stormwater fund. So looking to fund it with $320,000. Some improvements at Charles Street, drainage improvements, to now looking to do the design work in 19, and again the construction a bit further out. So the same approach of designing it 1 year, maybe looking for funding, and then constructing it out another year.
Utilities project, too.
Tumblebrook Drive stormwater improvements. This is for construction of the improvements, the pipe and the drainage structure. So this, I believe, was previously designed. So they've got a 12-year-old pump there, and that they're using there to keep that place clean. So that's really the stormwater fund at this point. Next comes a vehicle replacement fund.
Tracy,
Yes.
before we do that, where are we on the sidewalk of Yorktown? Is that, to my knowledge, when we increased the
think
fee?
that-
Sidewalk at
that
Yorktown's
already
on
had
hold
been
until
funded
the
in-
legal action against the state or against the city is cleared.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's, believe me,
Okay.
soon as we're good, we're gonna do something about it.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to talk about the vehicle replacement So there, you can see that the majority of the replacement is in police and fire, and then as we move down through. So the police department is going to look to replace 12 vehicles in fiscal 19. These are replacements. Any new funding for police vehicles you're going to be talking about tomorrow. So we do have an additional request there, but this is replacement vehicles. So these are things that are in the schedule ready to be replaced. In this case, it's 10 police patrol vehicles, a detective, and a van.
Is this reflective of any requests for personnel increases
No.
that would be associated with any vehicles that we might need to add?
Not this one.
That's
what she
tomorrow.
just-
Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
That's
You'll-
what
you'll
I
see
was alluding to.
The people and the vehicles and the gear tomorrow.
Okay.
That's on those.
So this
those
is all
requests are-
status quo,
right.
Yeah. but this will be affected by that tomorrow.
No, I wouldn't phrase it that way. We have a stock of rolling stock, and a certain portion of it needs to be replaced every year. This is that portion.
Okay.
Tomorrow, we're going to be discussing an addition to staffing, and that staffing would also need vehicles. So that's a separate item. So that's really the expansion of it. The vehicle, the lease and replacement fund, you have to pay into it in order to be able to
What he's
replace it.
getting at is in FY20, the cost is going to go up because if we get a new guy, we're going to have to replace his vehicle in 9 years, and we're going to start paying for it next year.
Yes, the overall, but you would start paying for it, of course. You get the guy in, you
Right.
pay for a half
okay.
a year the first year, and then you start to pay into the lease and replacement
Right.
fund for that vehicle that he got. But the first purchase of it occurs typically out of the general fund.
That's kind of what I was getting to, is because we need to pre-fund all of that.
When you first bring the guy on with the car, yes. That's why it's expensive to add them. It's expensive to add anyone really to the base.
Price of a safe community.
True. So this is already existing patrol vehicles that are due for replacement.
Okay.
Here in the fire and rescue
Before
department.
you move on to that one, I
Mhm.
got another one.
Yes.
We recently changed vehicles. How has that been received? Has that been as positive?
Yes,
Okay.
the cars are better.
Explorers.
Tom's coming up, but I've talked to a few policemen that said it's a joy to get in and out of the stinking things. They get better gas mileage, says Jeff Fontaine, and Chief, the rest of it.
Yeah, the big thing is it's a rolling office, so it's their office for 12 hours during the day, and it gives that a little bit more room with all the upgrades that's happened over the years in our profession with computers and printers and all that other
Tag
stuff
readers,
things
all
I
that
would
stuff.
never even
Yeah.
considered
Yeah.
30 years ago when I started. It's in the cars now, so it gives us a lot more room. One of the things that concerned me was putting prisoners in and out of the back seat. How would that affect our officers, getting them in and out with that? I don't want anybody to hurt their backs or something. They were telling me it's easier, actually. Much easier than getting them bending down. And when you think
Set
about
up
it,
a
it makes
little higher.
sense. Bending down and getting them into that. I know you've done it before, Scott. You understand what I'm saying, putting somebody in the back of the cruiser and getting
I'm
them out
still a fan of the
sometimes.
92 Crown Vics, Chief.
Plenty of room. Plenty of room in the old Crown Vics.
Dead.
Classic
Crown
car.
Vics are dead.
So, but anyways, they're working very well, and the guys really, our officers really like them, and it does give them a little bit of extra room. So,
Glad to know it's a good
the value's
investment.
there.
The night that I rode, I was absolutely amazed at how much you fit into a cruiser.
Yeah.
There's more room in the back seat than you thought.
That was a different department.
Different night.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
Thank you. So as we look at the fire and rescue department, the lease and replacement, so what is scheduled is a replacement of a pumper. Pumper 1664 has already been paid into. It's time for it to be replaced. We had a variety of discussions, and at this point, the recommendation from the department is to add $75,000 to that pumper and replace it with a 105-foot aerial quint. This would replace the request that we had previously spoken about earlier. We've had two sort of pre-budget workshops that we've already gone on. So this $75,000, if approved, would be funded by the general fund. So you will again be seeing that same item on the a la carte menu tomorrow. So again, since it's an expansion, it's something that wasn't paid into, that upgrade basically needs to be funded. And so you're going to be seeing that again tomorrow. But, so that would be the first choice. Second choice is to replace it with 2 baseline pumpers, and then the third choice is to replace it with like for like, and have the custom pumper that the department currently has.
So one of the things that Chief and I talked about, and that I want council to realize is 105-foot aerial quint wasn't something that we thought about 4 or 5 years ago when we started the lease and replacement for this pumper, and the thought is you replace like for like, but our city situation has changed a little bit. There's I think Chief indicated to you in our first budget meeting the setbacks of the road to building, and also that we're getting more and more, I'll call them mid-rise, but taller buildings in our city, 3-story apartment complexes. We have somebody just dropped off plans for a 5-story hotel. So things of that nature make the aerial quint in this department with this chief their number one priority, or their number one request for this $900,000 to spend it that way. So and so for option number 2, if the 105-foot aerial quint, which is what the chief and the guys want and gals want, is instead of buying a like pumper, they need 2 baseline pumpers to provide the necessary fire equipment in the city. When one 900K pumper goes down, you lose a little bit of capacity. But if he had 2, he lose a little bit of capability at the fire, but not enough to make a difference compared to losing a whole 900K custom pumper. So it gives them a little more option to respond with the 2. So keep that in mind. The 2 baseline pumpers won't cost you the additional $75K, but that's their backup plan. They want to stay away from the custom pumper unless it's a last resort. Okay. All right.
Public Utilities is looking to replace a pickup truck for water production as well as a pump for water distribution. Public Works, we're looking to replace 2 pieces of equipment. These are 2 light plants or towers. I had to look up what a light plant was, but it's those things that you see when you have like the 4th of July, it's that thing that lights up for everybody for safety. That's why it says towers now. This is a list of Public Works equipment to perform mowing in-house if that ends up being council's guidance. And again, we really need decisions on this, the direction that council wants us to go. Previously, Lynn provided you with a briefing on this item. At this point, since the least expensive option is to continue to outsource, that's what the base budget is built on that you're going to see tomorrow. So if council chooses to bring mowing in-house, then this is the CIP item that would need to be funded for it. And it would need to come from the general fund because, again, we don't have that currently, so we haven't paid into the lease and replacement fund to replace it from there. So this is going to be an item for council guidance tomorrow, really. It's not included in the budget, but if you do want to do that, then we need to move in that direction. Parks and Rec Department is replacing 5 pieces of equipment in a van for $133,000. Okay. Cypress Head Golf Course, it's 3 pieces of equipment, a tractor, a green mower, and a fairway mower, and 75 golf carts. It's a lease and replacement. So we're interested in knowing your comments at this point. We're going to be we forecast revenue and we're matching it to the funding. So at this point, that's where we are. If there's questions, guidance that you want to give us, we're all ears.
I think a lot of the biggies will happen tomorrow night, or we'll make some choices, and I think we've asked a lot of questions about particular items as we went. Is there anything anybody up here sees that they don't like and we need to live without right now?
The problem is, I need the big picture of money to decide.
Yeah.
You know, depending on how much we're over, you know, whatever we decide the millage rate we're aiming at, you know, that's when we get into trouble.
So that'll be the question. Are we aiming for a millage, or are we aiming for service level? That'll come tomorrow. Right now, the 317 is not, we put nothing in there. Right?
We do not currently have a transfer from the general fund into the 317 fund. So the big issues as we look forward to tomorrow for everyone to think about is the base that you're looking at tomorrow has the current millage rate on it. And this is really for discussion points because we're going to be looking to set the max millage then that following Tuesday. So whatever council wants to do, I would encourage you to give yourself enough of room as we then develop and things you say fund or don't fund, you know, because you can't go down from that millage that you will set. So
Tomorrow night, as we prioritize and we see what we're adding in,
right,
we need to know what the impact is cost-wise.
And there is
and then we can make those decisions, because I don't think basically we need to, my feeling is we need to build a budget based on the service levels we want. And once we know what that costs, if we're sitting here with sticker shock, we need to figure out what we can't, what we can live without.
So we will, I think we've carved up the budget, and we sent the slides, right? Late,
Yes,
but
it
you
should
have
have-
the slides
you
in
should
your
have
box.
that.
The a la carte items have the impact. I think they don't have the impact.
They
have
don't.
The
They will
associated-
tomorrow.
They have the
Yeah.
associated millage.
Yes, they do.
They have the cost. What I'm hoping council does tomorrow is concentrates on the overall cost and the cost to our taxpayers and determine it that way. I've had a lot of people comment to me that they don't spend millage, they spend dollars.
Sure.
So something to consider. The other thing that we will tie in with, for you tomorrow, so we don't lose focus, is what's out there that we kind of talked about today that will affect that millage rate tomorrow. The mowing, $160,000, the $75,000 additional to buy the Quint, the aerial Quint, the ADA transition at $200,000, and the rec at 510. So are we at $1 million yet? We're about 750.
Getting there.
Right there, 750. Before we hit the a la carte items, the police officers, the ambulance, the firefighters, the
School board.
the all the other stuff. There's so much.
Well, no, let me say, one of our goals is fiscal sustainability.
Correct.
So it's a key thing. Whether you call it millage or dollars doesn't matter. It's the impact upon the individual householder in this city. And, you know, millage, of course, is a dangerous number because it is so variable. You know, with the assessor out there with the home values going up dramatically, what are they up, 10 or 15% this year?
Doesn't matter though.
It drives, well, it affects the millage. You know, it affects everything. The millage is going to create far more
Homestead's
money.
capped, right? Homestead's
Homestead
capped
at
and
2.1%.
non-homestead's capped.
Well,
So-
it's murder on new people, on people who have got a new home and are businessmen. So we have to take a look at, very sincerely at it.
The choices before council are very difficult. I will definitely grant you
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
You're faced with, in the past, we had the advantage of having more substantial balances to go ahead and draw on. And we saw the advantage of having stability when the hurricanes came. So, and we have the policy. So the issue is that there's not a nice pile of money somewhere to go ahead and tap some of these. So your choices are really general fund equity or millage, or borrowing. I mean, those are there are three ways to raise money to accomplish these
And we'll
items.
show you tomorrow, unfortunately or fortunately, that in the past, when I first got here, the agreement from council was that we were going to start to chip away on a pretty healthy savings plan that got a little bit high. Let's get that back down to a rate that, and then we had 2 hurricanes. But what I think you'll find tomorrow, and we kind of we hit the barrier last year, is that your policy only allows, and rightfully so, us to spend that money on one-time things. I think you'll find tomorrow that we don't have a lot of one-time items that you can use that fund to pay for those things.
So the
Most of our budget next year will be ongoing operating expenses.
correct. And so the budget that's coming before you tomorrow currently has $251,000 of revenue that has not yet been assigned to a project. So again, it's a starting point for conversation. But if we've already covered, the needs outstrip that 251. So the question is, which direction to go. And again, with the mowing piece,
That's at the current 4.4881.
4.4881. That's at
Okay.
the existing rate. Now it comes down a little because debt comes down. So
Yeah, debt
there'll be
came
a
down.
little bit
I
of a
am not
savings.
big on that. I'm talking about rollback, not necessarily going to it, but as a starting point. Or the second one we talked about is what we did this past year. What would it cost us next year? And I told you that my stand was I think we did a good job this year. We provided good quality services this year. How much will that cost us to do next year? And that's where I want to start.
Well,
But-
we
I'm
got
gonna
guidance
say-
from council 2 months ago that that's not where we started, so I'm afraid that that's not where we'll be.
Well, I'm afraid then we're going to have some
I'll defer to the mayor
arm
for that.
wrestling.
We're going to have some arm wrestling anyway, but part of the problem with starting with rollback is this council has already voted and committed dollars beyond rollback.
Very, very much so.
What did we vote on?
Labor contracts.
Oh, the labor, well, no.
Those
I-
3 years worth of
and
labor
remember,
contracts and
If you
increases.
listen to what I said was, and by the way, it may well be within rollback this year, because the amount,
Rollback means they're spending the same amount of money, and if you're
Plus-
increasing your costs,
plus
it's not possible.
growth money,
We know, right?
plus
Yeah.
growth
Plus
money.
some growth money.
No.
As I understand it, the county's already found out that their growth money is going to be sufficient to cover quite a few things. And I think our growth money is going to be, what, about 5 or 6%?
Lisa, if we went back to rollback, is it not about $1 million?
About $1,076,000.
Yeah, so it's about $1 million
Let's
that
see
we
what
would
that
need
is.
to remove out of the base that we're providing. Now, 251 of it is already identified, so if we were to do none of the items that are on à la carte, that would not be the
We'd have to-
aerial
we'd
quit
have
or
to cut
anything. We would have to
750K
cut
from the
another
budget.
750,000 out of the existing budget. So
That's
What
at
exists?
rollback.
that would get us to rollback. Because it's $1,076,000 difference between the existing rate of 4.4881 and the rollback of 4.2084. Please don't quote me on that because
Okay,
I'm going
good.
from memory.
Okay.
But I think it's 4.2084.
And that's including the growth money.
Yeah.
That's rollback.
Yes, rollback includes the
Includes the
growth
growth
money.
money.
It was not, I can't remember the number off the top of my head this
Oh.
year.
So
But the challenge is that when the city grows, then we're obligated to provide services, and the vast majority of our expenses is public
Well,
safety. So that's part of what the
Rollback
issue is.
includes that, because it gives you growth money.
it does give you growth money.
Okay. So all I'm saying is, my starting point is there. And then we arm wrestle how much more we're gonna enter into, how much additional funds we're gonna spend upping the taxes.
Yeah, and we'll have that conversation tomorrow. You guys can chat about all that. But I want council to be clear that tomorrow's budget, the baseline is built on a 4.4881
Our current millage.
current
It's
millage
built- okay.
rate.
Plus another 200
Plus-
some odd thousand.
And
take away from
with
that.
4.4881, we have funded everything, turn the page as directed, with the exception of the caveats, right? The janitor and one police officer. Those have been
Okay.
added in, so that's what's different from last year.
Okay.
Everything else, when you turn the page at 4.4881, you have $280,000 left over.
$251,000
$251,000 left
to
over
sign.
to start buying a la carte items, and we can walk away at 4.4881 with $250,000 worth of a la carte items and be done.
Okay.
And
When you say-
or you can buy more a la carte items, and we'll start tacking on to the millage
250.
rate
Okay.
to show you, based on what you just bought,
Okay.
this is what that millage rate would be, with the intent of being comfortable with a max millage rate on July 17th. July
Right,
17th.
July 17th we'll set the max millage, and then, of course, discussions could continue, because it could always lower from that. And the real challenge that is before council, and I'm glad that I'm not sitting in your seats, because we've got the ADA transition plan of $200,000 that is not currently funded. And we also have the $510,000 city portion of the Recreation, Educational, and Cultural Center in order to get the ECHO grant. And the $200,000 ADA is in order to get a lot of that TPO funding. So these are difficult choices to make, because you have other funding that will come along and help you, but you have to be able to pony up your own. And if you want to look at using reserves, the responsibility that I have when you drop down is to get you back to that reserve point within 3 years, and we aren't currently there. Unfortunately, we're not at the point that we're substantially over. So it's, I remember when I first came here, I would say, oh, you have, $3 million to use for your permitted expenditure. I wish I had that currently, but I don't currently have that to offer up, because it's a great way. If you tax high, you end up with savings that you can then use in future years. But we've had
the
pretty
past
close.
3 years.
We've not
the past 3
returned a
years,
lot.
we have
Yeah, we
not
just-
taxed high and used savings, and now we're at a place where
Okay.
we can't use our savings.
I got a question.
Really.
Just
Of course.
for clarity.
Mhm.
Okay, if we stay at the current millage rate,
Mhm.
we have roughly 250K.
Right.
I don't want to say extra, but there's a...
It's unassigned.
Unassigned,
Yes.
okay. So, but if we do the ADA funding, that we're going to need 200, so now we only
Now
have
you're down to
51. Mhm.
And then we have a quint that's going to be 75,000.
I'm 25 in the hole.
Over.
I'm now
Right.
25 in the hole.
So already
25 in the
over,
hole.
and that's before the recreation remodel of 510,000 that we need
That's
to
correct.
identify. Okay.
That's-
I just
that's-
want to be clear on the 250 and where we sit with
Correct.
those other needs.
And please
Correct.
don't, those are the 3 items you know about today, because we briefed the CIP.
Yeah.
There are more a la carte items
Oh,
on there that
yeah,
will
no, I
compete-
realize that.
That will compete with those
Yeah,
things too.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But if we,
And that's before the
this might
mowing
be-
and everything. The
This might
100
be blasphemy in some circles, but if you like the rec, but you don't want to do it this year, it can lie fallow for a year, and we can do the ECHO funding next year. The mayor said we got to strike while we're hot. Next year is going to be FY20, and ECHO runs out.
Of course, I may
without a
feel differently
revote.
about that tomorrow. But
But that's the conundrum we'll be in tomorrow as we
And we
wring our
also
hands
are
and
going to
figure it
have
out.
a homestead exemption vote that's going to affect that budget for the next year.
then there's that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We haven't even planned for that yet.
That's a
I wouldn't
cloud.
say we haven't planned for it.
Well, no,
That
I
is
know,
gonna be
but
a
we haven't.
tremendous tax shift.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
bill for the shelter is not been
That's
factored
incorrect.
in. I just got it.
No, no, sir.
So-
And the bill for the schools are not
So,
factored in.
since that's been brought out, I would like the record to show that the city of Port Orange did pay the First Step Shelter bill,
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
are getting proof that it was.
I look forward to
And I'm not too happy about that letter that went out by First Step Shelter indicating that
I'm concerned
that we didn't pay.
that they don't know where they put their $35,000 they got from us.
So the city of Port Orange will be asking for financial statements from the First Step Shelter, because now I'm concerned that they're not,
Where is
they're
our?
not familiar with
where's
where
our
their money's
contribution?
going. So.
And
I'll be getting to the
tomorrow,
bottom of that.
are we talking tomorrow
We'll be ready.
about the request in increased funding for the school guardians, school marshals
No.
from this?
We-
Okay.
We talked to the superintendent next
I told her.
Wednesday. And I'm not
He's
gonna,
yet to visit with us.
I'm not gonna entertain that. So here's the.
Okay. Well, I just know that's coming, so I
That's not in there.
okay.
It's not in the budget.
They haven't
I didn't
officially
put it in
asked
the-
for it yet, so.
I didn't put it in the budget because A, it hasn't been asked for, and it's not in the budget.
Okay.
I think it would be prudent to put it in there yet,
Okay.
based on
Understood.
conversations I've had.
But just remember, next year, not this year, but next year, we're gonna have an even much harsher year fiscally between the vote, which I expect is going to change the way they increase exemptions. We're also facing, somehow there is a lot of suggestions there may be a downturn in the economy, what we call a correction. It's not anticipated to be a very large one, but there's going to be a correction. Corrections do two things. They really do drive down assessments, and the opposite will occur as to what is occurring now. Your average charge will go down. Value of your property will go down, and your tax income will come. So we have to be mindful that we're heading into some difficult waters shortly. So we need to be fiscally prudent as we move forward.
So my piggyback on that is I believe our staff and council should be fiscally prudent all the time, and I believe we are getting better and better and better every year. You'll find tomorrow the financials will show that we're executing our budget better and better every year. Less money at the end of the year available to go to equity, and for the good, the bad, or the other, there's not much slop left in our operating budget. We don't slop around with overtime as much as has been done in the past. At council's direction, and I welcome this, every year our funds more accurately fund the right stuff. There's no cross-pollination. Not to say there was a lot before, but less and less every year. Drainage is paying for drainage, utilities are paying for utilities, police are paying for police, and we're not making do or having other people buy other people's stuff. And every year our building maintenance fund more accurately reflects, and it's the thing that bothers me the most, more accurately reflects who's paying for what, and we're getting better and better at it. So I thank the staff for taking a good stab at that and getting these numbers down, and we're lean and getting leaner every year. So I do appreciate staff's working at that, but I think you'll see that tomorrow.
I'm going to ask, they've already emailed the presentation out. If you go to the end of the presentation, you'll see all of the a la carte choices.
Okay.
There's almost 50 of them. There's almost there's over $2 million in choices there. It's broken out by cost. You also see the millage impact of each one.
Perfect.
And all 5 of us need to spend time prioritizing that today before we meet tomorrow, because if 3 of us are ready or 4 of us are ready and 1 of us is not, it's going to be a long night, because we're going to end for a long night tomorrow trudging through all this anyway. So if everybody would just be prepared for that, I'd appreciate that. Also, you've got this in email. We got that yesterday.
Yep.
If you're looking at a particular a la carte item and want to look at the detailed explanation of it, before we use up our staff time at the last second, you've got some detailed information in the budget document that we have, so that you can take a look at if there's a question about, because there's a number of different things from fire, there's a number of different things from police. So it's not a lot of time, granted, but we need to do our homework.
So I offer this up. I'm sorry, staff. We would like to set the max millage rate on July 17th. But as you'll see on the first slide tomorrow, there's time after the 17th. So if we need to get back together after the 17th, might be a hodgepodge of people, it might be me and council. I will get together with you all one-on-one. We can have another workshop. We can work the weekend. I don't care, but
let's see how tomorrow night goes.
I'm just telling you, the 17th. Don't think the 17th has to happen without more discussion. I would like to get it wrapped up on the 17th, like all the other cities do, and be happy and move on about their lives.
We set the max there, and then
I would like to see that.
I do appreciate that, because while we're under the gun, some decisions do need a little bit more consideration than others.
Well,
and the fact that you offered to buy pizza at the break tomorrow, I really appreciate that as well.
I'll gladly do that if we can wrap up on the 17th of July. And I'm not kidding.
I didn't think you were. With that,
Nope.
Well, hold on.
What?
I got
You don't let us all have a chance to have this
I
conversation
just
here,
no.
or you
got a
just ready to
question.
go home?
We haven't had the conversation.
I didn't
Didn't
see,
Bob say it all?
I didn't see anything in fiscal year 19. I may have overlooked it for police. Do we not have a capital improvement for 19?
Only included in the vehicle replacement.
Okay, just the
Just the vehicle,
one
so
that
nothing,
did,
nothing in addition. You're probably
Did you
thinking
want to buy
of-
him something?
No, I just want to make sure I didn't overlook something. I got the vehicle part, so there wasn't additional in 19.
You're probably thinking of the training center that is a current ongoing project.
And that, yeah.
But we're not requesting additional funding for that.
Okay.
So that's probably the point.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's why it's not there.
And then I got a question for Chief Fuston.
You're gonna make the guy get up 4 times in one meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Because
That's
I
why
got a
He's
question.
sitting on the edge now.
Yeah, I got a
no longer
question.
behind Bo.
Go ahead. Ask the question. He'll walk up.
Okay, so the area or the quint replacement is 900,000, which we have some funding identified for. You're asking for an additional 75 to fund that truck this year as a replacement, not to enhance the fleet. It's a replacement. And then if looking ahead to tomorrow's, there was another $1 million or 900 and some odd thousand in tomorrow's. Is that being removed and shifted to capital? Is that what I'm understanding, or is there an additional 900,000 tomorrow that you're also
I
asking
think in a previous
for?
budget discussion, we were asking for an additional 950,000
Okay.
to buy the aerial.
That's what I'm.
We
that's
saw
what
the
I'm
price
recalling.
shock on your faces, and we decided to take a step back
Okay.
and do something a little bit more prudent. We met with retired Fire Chief Tom Weber, and he gave us some direction on the value of an aerial ladder as it relates to our ISO score.
Okay.
And so, while it seems to be a big investment on the front side, it can play a big part in a significant reduction in our ISO score, which results in lower insurance premiums for our
Citywide.
community.
Okay.
That's why we upped the priority. We made it, we
Okay.
took it off of our wish list and put it more on our replacement list. So you won't see that 950 request.
Okay.
But what we are requesting is I met with the sales rep. He felt that 975 was a more appropriate expense estimate to replace asset 1631, I believe.
Okay.
So instead of buying a pumper to replace a pumper, we're requesting to put an aerial ladder in service in place of a pumper.
Okay. And that was going to be one of my.
And that's on tomorrow's slide
Okay.
already.
I
As a
didn't look-
$75,000.
Okay, because that's for the additional 75,000 on the back end. If we get that ISO rating down, that's going to be such a good investment.
For a long time, I thought a Class 1 rating was beyond our reach. But after meeting with Chief
Okay.
Weber and looking at all the different strategies that we can come up with,
Yeah.
with us assisting in hydrant testing, in another aerial ladder.
Yeah. Actually,
Actually, ISO recommends 3 aerials for a city of our size with the number of high-rise buildings that we have. They recommend 3.
Okay.
Class 1's not out of our reach. And so that's become
Very good.
organizationally our goal.
Okay. And then the other quint we have would stay at Station 2 and stay in service.
That's correct.
But when we bought that, we've had to have increased. I mean, we've approved several apartment complexes of 3 stories or greater, and we have some on the.
We've got, per ISO, we have 88 buildings in Port Orange that's considered a high-rise.
Okay.
18 of those buildings have been built since 2014.
Since 2014.
Since 2014.
And more and
We have
more are in
approximately
approval.
10 to 20 going through plan review process right now.
Okay. So there's our need. I mean, right there.
The need's there.
Yeah,
The need is definitely
clearly.
there. Amongst many other needs of all the other departments.
I got you.
Chief, is
Okay.
there a general formula on how the ISO score would relate to average home value in Port Orange? To say the average homeowner should save
I am
$20 a year.
glad
or
you
whatever.
asked that, and we are actively trying to get that. Chief Gardner has had multiple communications with the contact of Chief Weber's.
Okay.
He will be able to brief you on that tomorrow. Unfortunately, I've got to fly to Illinois tomorrow, so I will not be here, but Chief Gardner
Okay.
will be fully ready for tomorrow night. We hope to have a figure that the average savings for a Class 3 to a Class 2 to a Class 1 for commercial insurance policy holders, residential insurance policy holders, we're hoping to have a rough order of magnitude estimate. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that 975 will result in a $975,000 in insurance savings, but I want to have you something.
Yeah, sure.
We want to have something.
And I'm okay with a very conservative
Okay.
discussion. I'm just curious if there's a.
If it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be
I
nice
get
to
it.
know, right?
And there are a few other components, and one of them I remember you mentioned is the hydrant maintenance or hydrant repair or something.
Yeah, we're
The
going to
water-
assist public utilities in testing hydrants.
Okay.
We're going to up our game on pre-fire planning. We're going to up our game on our training hours.
Okay.
We're going to hopefully up our game in the aerial ladder.
Okay.
A transport unit serves as a service vehicle and also gets you ISO points. So it's all a big part. We're currently 13.5 points away from a Class 1. I think we can get to a Class 2 easily just by taking over hydrant testing. Everything else that we do above that, our goal is to go
towards
to
the additional points
go to a
needed
Class
to get
1.
to a 1.
That's correct. That's our goal organizationally.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
What else you got, Drew?
I'll save the comments for the other thing for tomorrow because I got on the mowing, but that's more related to the budget rather than CIP.
It's on the a la carte tomorrow,
Yep,
definitely.
Yep. So that's all I got for tonight.
Scott?
And I'm going to touch on that actually real quick. Since Jake wasn't here for that workshop meeting, and I just wanted to clarify something for the benefit of the council. I know Bob had made some comments, and Chase, you too, about the numbers and how they add up and stack up. I would ask you guys, go back and look at the numbers that Lynn provided to us in that that presentation. When I brought this to Jake and suggested that we really take a good hard look at whether or not it's still beneficial to do this with contractors versus bringing it in-house, my idea was not to do part of it. My idea was to do all of it. And I know that with Lynn's presentation the other night, you may say, well, it already seemed too expensive then, it would be more expensive. You would be incorrect if you look at the numbers. Just using the numbers that were provided to us in that workshop, I kind of went back and looked at that, and knowing what we get from our contractors now versus the idea that I had of bringing all of that stuff in-house, I think if you look at those numbers and get your calculator out, I think you're going to get an eye-opener. Now, that being said, there were some things that came out in the presentation that I still don't understand and not sure exactly how to process that, like that it takes us an average of 66 days to hire an employee. I just can't fathom it takes us 66 days to hire somebody to cut grass. Bob, you had mentioned that we don't do so good when it comes to specialty things in the city. I just got to be honest with you, I don't think cutting grass and weed eating is a specialty in the city. If it is, we're in trouble.
I didn't think so
Yeah.
until I've gone through the last 4 or 5 years here.
I got you.
We somehow have not been able to get anyone to do it right.
Right.
Our own people or contractors.
But just to give you guys a rough idea, and I wasn't planning to mention that tonight, but since we're talking about it, and I know it's coming up tomorrow night, I would agree that I know that Jake's got some concerns about the hiring process and how would you to do this thing, but just a ballpark number for you guys, using the numbers that Lynn presented to us. If you were to create a department or a section within Public Works of a 20-person crew that only did maintenance services, primarily landscape, if you added 15 maintenance workers based on the numbers that we received, 3 crew chiefs and 2 supervisors, based on the numbers that we receive with the annual cost and benefits, that only brings you to $700,000. We're spending almost $1 million on contractor maintenance for part-time service versus a 20-person crew that yields you 38,000 man hours in the city of Port Orange. So that was my idea. That was what I was trying to look at in concept, is not only how do we get bigger bang for our buck, but how do we get additional resource and manpower hours that we can use full time in our city, you know? So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that because I know with the presentation, I kind of left and even went back and looked at the numbers, and it just really wasn't what I had in mind. Was a part piecing it together part time, because I'm not so sure that would be the effective way to do it. And I know Jake wasn't here, and in having some conversations, Jake does have some concerns that I think are very valid. And to be quite honest with you, if I had to vote tonight without hearing Jake's concerns and trying to work, I'm not sure I would vote for it tonight, to be honest with you. But I do think that it merits looking at the numbers holistically and seeing, I know we're looking now, there's an email that just came out, maybe merging 2 departments, right? And
Public Works and Utilities.
Yeah, Public Works and Utility, merging those, which I like the concept, I like the idea. But that even begs to the attention of, could this even be another benefit, more so now? Adding 38,000 man hours. And yes, the equipment number, and this is why I'm bringing it up, because the equipment number you bring up tonight for 161,000 pertain to that particular program
Right.
proposal.
Yep.
That number would go up. So, but let's say you even double it. You're talking, that's a one-time, well, not a one-time expenditure. It's an initial big one-time expenditure, but you're not replacing every one of those lawnmowers and mowers and everything every single year.
No,
So
it's
that
a one-time shot.
eventually. So anyway, that was my idea, and I just wanted to touch upon that. And I certainly would encourage council to go back and look at that, because I guess we'll have a little discussion about that tomorrow. And I would only want to do that if I think that the entire council, honestly, across the board, felt good about trying to do something and that we could support the city manager and him being able to put that together.
We just
and
talked
could
about,
you really do it?
We just talked about that today. Is we're ambivalent as to internal or external, but this will be an experiment that we're going to want to succeed if we go in house, and we gotta be able to support it. And we'll talk about some of the pros and cons with
If
the.
we do it, let's not call it an experiment. If we
Well,
do it, we're doing it.
So an experiment in that, okay, let's do it, but I don't want to lose people because it failed.
I agree.
And I don't
concur.
want it to fail.
I get that.
And, you
So-
know, it's interesting, Jake. I apologize for interrupting. It's
Yeah,
interesting
no.
because everybody brings great stuff and ideas to the table. Bob mentioned something a minute about, you know what, we could be on the verge of an economic downturn, and
Right.
he's right.
Right.
I look at that and say, well, if that would occur, having a job with the city where you've got benefits and you've got security, to me, has exceptional value.
Absolutely.
Could be wrong, right? But I think
Absolutely.
it does. And I think, and the one thing I would really challenge you and your staff is to look at the hours part. Is we're paying $1 million, we don't get any additional resource benefit out of that.
Yeah.
If we could get the same thing with a much larger scale, and I get that it would be a significant size manpower force, but now you've got an extra 15,000 hours in Lynn's
Right.
2 departments a year. What would we do with those hours, and how would that benefit us? And is there cost savings there? That's
Yeah.
what I would, and I know that maybe that won't all come out tomorrow. I get that, and so
Well,
timeline's tough. But I just wanted to share with everybody, that was my thought process.
Sure.
Was if we can yield another 15 or 20,000 man hours to do things in the non-growing seasons that will help out public works or public utilities or whatever.
Drainage.
Yeah. It did, you know, and significantly get the, and I know it's cliche, get the bigger bang for the buck. Is there
Right.
that? Can we do that?
So,
you know,
so we'll talk about all that tomorrow. We've
Yeah.
thought through all those things. I think you'll see tomorrow that our recommendation is to continue to outsource, but if council's direction is to go in-house, Lynn just touched, she goes, I'll go in-house. I'll hire people and do it. But we'll talk to you about some of the concerns we have with all those, the hiring, which you and I have already talked about. So.
Good table setting.
Yeah, because I'll be honest with you, I would only want to do it if we all, staff, council, everybody says, we can absolutely do this and we're going to come out with a significant benefit. If we don't think we can do that, then we got to move on and table that at least for this year.
We'll show you what the barriers are.
Okay.
We've
and I'm
got a
good
lot
with
of
that.
other things going on, even if we just break even. We've got a lot of other things going on. We got to be moving the football down the field if we're
agree.
doing it.
I agree.
Good table setting. Chase, you got anything else?
No, but I'm interested in continuing that discussion that you bring up, Scott. My concern is it's the $750,000 is a soft cost, because that's going to continue to go up with salaries and benefits and things of that nature, and of course maintenance. However, you bring up a good point though, because if you are paying a little bit more but getting a lot more in returns, I'm interested in having a conversation. But
These are different kind of synergies for sure.
yeah, but as it is right now, the numbers are going to say it all.
Bob, you got anything else to add?
Nope.
Tracy, is there any direction you want to give us or anything you'd like us to look at in preparation for tomorrow night, or did we hit the salient points?
I think we hit the salient points. I'll be particularly interested in the funding of the ADA, the rec center.
Am I understand by council's lack of discussion about the other items and the other funds that those are good, as with the consideration, the wood shop is the only.
We still had a lot. What's unfunded is still unfunded, so it's not like we're concerned about it, but
I got that. So out of the unfunded list, was there anything that council thought needed to be funded or prioritized differently? This was staff's shot at what we thought was the most important thing, and unless you all have something different here in the coming days, we're going to assume that the CIP, as it looks, is as you want it as well, with the exception of the I got the wood shop. We'll see about we'll see about that and some of the other questions you have.
Jake, is this a separate conversation? We've talked about the Riverwood plantation street paving.
The street paving priority list
did you take a look at the list in
is
the
on the
CIP?
list, and that's what's approved.
I'm talking about the changing of the one particular road that we've discussed.
Help refresh my memory. Is
This
the turn
is the turn where it goes into 3 lanes.
No, we're not going to change that. We looked
Why
at
not?
it because it was built that way. That's the one, Tim, that Riverwood Plantation goes out to, what's the T in the road?
It's Town West.
Town West. Port Orange Plantation. Remember, we looked at and the road's always been that way. The left turn, it wasn't repaved, it wasn't relined, it was, it's the way it's always been, and I'm not inclined to redesign the road because we have a complaint that people are parking in the turn lane.
Well, it's not just a complaint that's parking the turnway. There are people parking, but it's a dangerous situation. If somebody parks in the right of way,
How many accidents have we had there? Can you get that information for me? Not right now, but we'll bring it to you tomorrow and discuss it tomorrow.
okay, I'd like to discuss it.
So, sure. But no, it's not currently in the CIP for repaving that road and relining it.
Anybody else have any issues with the way things are prioritized, or?
No, I'm okay with the priorities of this stuff.
Okay. If something comes up, let us know so we can adjust.
All right. Jake, is there anything else for us this evening? Have you guided us
Everybody?
enough? Ooh, wow, that came out bad. All right, with that, unless there's anything else, tomorrow evening, here we go.